Hi, everybody. We're going to start. Welcome today to Queens Conference Center. I see we have 265 online. So this is a very popular webinar, and we are very blessed today to be talking about motivation and health behavior change. And you see the link here. If you can't get in, just click it again and register. If you're having any trouble with the audio, you use one of these phone numbers. And if you've already downloaded your Zoom icon onto your desktop, you can just join this meeting with that webinar ID. See, there it goes. We're a member of the Western Region Public Health Training Center, and the reason you want to know that is they pay for these trainings, and we bring them to you without charge. You have to pay maybe a little parking. Now, two things, though, we do ask you to do is to sign in. We have to report the numbers, and we want your evaluation. We compile the evaluation. So we're in Region 9, and we're members with California, Pacific Islands, Nevada, and Arizona besides Hawaii. It's a wonderful partnership, and they're wonderful people to work with, and they help us get several of the continuing ed wrong way. And these are our sponsors. So we have the Public Health Training Hui, which I am based out of the Office of Public Health Study at UH Manoa. We work as a group and try to bring these monthly trainings to you. Here's the Western region. And all of the 10 federal regions are part of the Public Health Learning Network throughout the nation. And we must say our special thanks to Queens Conference Center and the Medical Center for hosting us as a community partner. We are the organizers. I am the nurse and public health person. Most of you know Camille. I don't think you see her very much anymore because she has to come in remotely. She has a day job and she's assigned on the windward side, so she comes in on her lunch break. And Christopher now has been working from California. He's the CHES, she's the social worker, I'm the nurse public health. This helps us for the next page to get the continuing ed. We get 5 different continuing ed, and so the things in red are what you need to know for the different approval numbers or ID numbers or learning codes. And then these next few slides tell you specifics for each professional group. The first 3 are how public health and public health nursing would look at the competencies. It's around cultural competency today, some strategies, which would come under public health science, and of course, compelling and motivational communication. For the dietitian, nutritionists, it's case management, self-care management, listening and interviewing are their codes, and social work and CSAP, cultural awareness, mental health, social work methods, and communication. So it's really one of the detective things to figure out a training topic that will cut across several different health professional groups. So that's what we try to do. If you're seeking continuing ed, Camille will come online toward the end, and she will be sure to email you a survey, and it has a web link, and you need to do that feedback survey. And then you do have to attend the whole webinar, so welcome to any of you online that are new. Take the survey and wait up to 10 days to get your certificate of completion. For call-in only by phone, we can't figure out who you are. You must tell us your name and your phone number if you want continuing ed. If by the end of the month you haven't gotten a certificate, then email me and we'll figure out what's going on. The College of Nursing at the University of Arizona is kind enough to be the provider for the CNEs, the nursing. They asked that we put the learning objectives here. You will see that Dr. Seabury is going to talk about motivational strategies, self-management goals, and strategies work with challenging individuals. She also has a slide in her presentation. She'll elaborate on it, but this is a requirement. We're also required to say she has no financial disclosures And this, for the CNEs, for nursing, this is the link that you need to go to get your CNEs. You will have to take another online survey. Sorry if this is a repeat. When you go there, that's what this looks like. This is a more detailed link that gets you right where you want to go. If you're a CHES person, and I saw a lot of new CHES, which is Certified Health Education Specialists, you will have to take a survey, and this is a second survey, and here is the link for that. Most of you know that, that have been around, and when you take that link, it looks something like this. So sorry, each one's a little different. Here are the Zoom information. If you're having any trouble, you have to download a Zoom Launcher Executive one time, and you'll get the icon for that. We do record these. I did remember to click record, yay. And this will be posted on my YouTube for anyone for future reference or to share with your colleagues. We have handouts for the online people. You should have gotten it through a link that Camille emailed to you last night. The handout, the blue one, is here in the Queens Conference Center, is the one we want you to fill out an evaluation. For those online, you will get the email that Camille sends from Qualtrics. And then instead of pink today, we have green for the speaker that's coming up next week. It's going to, next month, it's going to be on collective leadership. And then the salmon color is the certificate that you will get afterwards. And now let's get on with the wonderful speaker we have today and the actual training topic. So Dr. Akahi Seabury is a licensed clinical psychologist, and she's the executive director of Iola Ahu. And she has created and worked to develop this nonprofit, and it gives behavioral health services to Native Hawaiians and medically underserved. She has a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and she has this wonderful experience where she did her pre-doctoral internship at Tripler Army Medical Center, and with an emphasis in community and health psychology. And then after her doctorate, she did a postdoctorate fellowship at Hawaii at the Department of Psychology on Children and Adolescent Evidence-Based Practice. So what a broad experience base we're getting today. And I think she's going to tell us more about her nonprofit, so you can read that last paragraph. And I would like to call her up, Dr. Seabury, to, it's not Barry, Berg, Seaberg, or Barry, Motivation and Health Behavioral Change. You're going to smell great.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and the click is on this side. It's a little
Groovy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to those of you near and far on the web and Zoom, and then to those of you in the conference room who are all far, not near, but hi. I'm here. Let's do this. Okay, so we're here today to talk about motivation and health behavior change, and there was a slide earlier that presented the objectives. I think for me, the main thing to talk about here is that I want to help you all figure out the stuff that has to do with how do you approach someone when all the signs are suggesting it might be a sticky conversation, either because of the stuff they're presenting with, like they're grouchy, or they're telling you they don't need help, or whatever it is, or because of the things you know you're going to need to talk about with them are going to be tricky, like you want them to do something different than what they're already doing. Anytime that happens, considering your approach is probably a really useful thing to stop and do before you get started. So even if it's just an inhale and exhale, that moment of stopping to think about, okay, how am I going to help bring out the best in this interaction is probably just the best place to start. If you don't remember anything else today, remember inhale, exhale, how do I bring out the best in this interaction? Cool? Okay, that was the quick version. Now we got about 70 minutes to do the slow down and tell me what you mean version, okay? So a little bit of jargon here. I'm a psychologist. Occasionally we fall into jargon land. So just so you know what I mean by these words, when I say self-management goals, for example, what that means is a goal that a person would set for themselves or set with you about how to make health behavior change happen. So for example, if they say, you know, I really want to walk more, so I think I'm going to walk around the mall Tuesday mornings. That would be a self-management goal. Cool? Okay, that's what that means, in case that's jargony. But we're going to work on this, and what I'm hoping is that through the time that we're talking, you're going to have this picture of some patients in mind, and I picked a few that I think of fondly when I think about health behavior change, that you're going to think about how do these different strategies or skills, or the way I'm describing it, how do I actually say that out loud to a real person? That's the focus here. I can teach you the jargon. There's lots of books that have all the funky words that have to do with motivational interviewing as a strategy. But what's most relevant is, what do you say to somebody when you talk to them this afternoon or tomorrow? Because as I understand it, most of our audience are health practitioners currently, or aspiring health practitioners. And either way, these skills also apply, by the way, to partners, spouses, landlords. Motivation is a useful way to approach almost any human interaction. So, you know, even if you're here under duress and you don't actually plan on taking care of community people, go for it with everybody in your life. In fact, if you want a better chair in this room, you could probably use MI to get it. I'm just kidding. Okay, here we go. So what we're going to do is, we're about halfway through introduction and overview right now, and then we're going to focus on strategies, or how to think about motivation for change, setting self-management goals, and we're going to talk about how to help change happen in challenging situations. So the first mindset shift we're doing is just to say, instead of saying this is how you work with challenging patients, we're saying help change to happen in a challenging situation. Because if you think of the person as difficult, you're probably not going to bring the best words to the table anyway. So better to think about, how do you help change happen in a challenging situation? Okay, so this is me. The place that I speak from has to do with the experience that I have working in part at Iola La Hui. That's a 501c3 nonprofit organization that I've been the head of for the last 10 years. Yay! Iola La Hui means so that the people will live and thrive. So we named ourselves for what we intend to be, or intend to happen because we exist, instead of calling ourselves group of psychologists. Number 4. Okay, so here's the introduction. So Iola La Hui's mission is to provide culturally minded, evidence-based behavioral health care that's responsive to the needs of medically underserved, predominantly Native Hawaiian and rural communities. And we do that through 4 kinds of efforts. We do direct behavioral health services and nutrition services, and that includes traditional mental health and health psychology, as well as weight management and nutrition services. Because it turns out change is hard. Doesn't matter what you're trying to change, change is hard. That's why I have a job. That's what psychologists do. So traditional mental health and health psychology. And then we also provide psychology training. So this is part of that effort to address the longstanding need for more behavioral health providers in rural communities. We train psychologists by placing them in rural communities while they're training, and then they love it, and we teach them how to do it without burning out. And then they get placed at the time of hire in those communities, and they stay, and they continue to do good work there. And so we do that across the spectrum of psychology training. We also do research and evaluation and consulting and advocacy, because those are the ways that we can reach farther with the work that we do, both to know about our effectiveness, but also to impact change in a bigger way. So these are the kinds of behavioral health services that that I do, as well as the folks at Iola La Hui. Sorry, for those of you on Zoom, I'm pointing at the slides to the people at Queens, but that's okay. I'll go like this too. So chronic disease management, lifestyle change. So as I said, weight management, smoking cessation, insomnia, stress, anger management, just kind of anytime you need to make a change. Traditional mental health stuff. So that's anxiety and depression, trauma, anger, parenting, couples, we're kind of cradle to grave. We've got a geropsych track that's pretty cool right now, working with older adults and their caregivers. And then we are located in Honolulu, Aiea, and Kahuku in terms of our clinics being located. We do web-based services. And then we're also partners with many community organizations throughout the state of Hawaii on 5 islands, sometimes 6, depends on the year. And so for those of you that are looking for behavioral health providers that might have a particular lens, like the one I might be talking about today, I can, if you connect with me, I can help you reach out and connect with someone in your community, if there is one, to help you get this kind of care or partner with it for your own patients. Okay, so let's jam. Okay, motivation for change. So we're gonna just go through 3 of my friends. The first fella is George, 67-year-old man with diabetes, hyperlipidemia, hypertension. He's well known by your staff for being impatient and grouchy. That's the rep he's got. The clinic and your schedule is busy today with lots of patients, so George has been waiting a long time to talk with you. Okay, so that's George. So just for the people in the room who can shout out, or those of you who can comment online, what do we know already? What's George going to be like? Grouchy, what does that mean? Impatient. Is he going to want to hear that he's got to wait another 30 minutes before he sees somebody? Not at all. And we know that if it's been busy today and he's already been waiting, he might be a little bit revved already, right? Okay, so this is one of those moments when we're starting to think, okay, what's my approach with someone who's been waiting a long time, right? They're not just grouchy, just, you know, because of their personality. They're grouchy because they've been waiting for an extra long time. So we'll see. Here's what George says. Well, it's about time we get started. I know you're busy, Doc, but I've been here all day. So what are we talking about today? Let me guess. You're going to try and tell me I can't eat anything good anymore. I tell you what, my grandmother lived to be 92. She smoked, ate bacon every day, and drank whiskey every afternoon. So all of this new stuff about don't eat this, too much salt is no good, all of that, I don't think so. Ever met George? Or any of you, George? You might be here, George. Hi, George. Okay. Okay, our next example is Lay. Lay's 54 with hypertension, hyperlipidemia, asthma, and depression. In your first meeting with her, she's very open about what she eats. She tells you both about her love of high-fat, high-sodium foods and her disdain for healthy things. Look, this is just the way I am. I've always eaten this way, and I can't change it now. If I want chocolate, then I'm going to eat it. If I want something salty, I won't deprive myself. Anybody ever been Lay? No Lay? Okay, cool. Charlie's our last one. He's 55 years old with hypertension. He's come to see you only twice in 5 years, both times when his wife forced him. You discussed diet and exercise at the last visit, but there's been no change to his weight, 270 pounds, or BP, 180/95. And recent lab work revealed his hemoglobin A1C was 5.9%. Okay, so for those of you who are not as lab ready, or that's not your domain, a blood pressure of 180/95 is considered uncontrolled. That's high blood pressure. You'd be in the, that's why he's got that high hypertension diagnosis. And a hemoglobin A1C of 5.9% means that the person is got pre-diabetes, right on the edge in moving into the land where they're going to be considered having diabetes. So this is a moment. Anybody met with somebody where the only reason they're talking with you is because somebody else made them? Is that a, yeah, that's pretty normal. Actually, right in our world, very few people are like, I've been dying for my moment to meet with you, to talk about how to be better. Okay, so why do some patients seem like they have low motivation? We're gonna play true false. Are you ready? Okay, if you're online, here's my tip for now. Talk to yourself. If you're in a room with other people, answer out loud and laugh a lot. But for right now, if you're the only person who's watching the webinar, just answer for yourself and see what happens, okay? Here we go. And I think the answers might actually show up when we click, because anyway, it's okay. We'll just give it a whirl. The main reason people don't eat healthy is because they're lazy. I hope so. I have M&Ms in my purse. Okay. Actually, I don't, but I'm hungry. Okay. Patients who have a consistent and predictable daily schedule where they do things at approximately the same time in the same way each week do better. That's what's missing. Right. So do most people have a consistent schedule where they approximately eat breakfast at the same time, go to bed at the same time every day? Raise your hand if in this room that's true of you. Approximately the same time. See, look at that. 2 out of, I don't know how many that is. Too many. Yeah, not so much. Okay. Someone takes their medication as prescribed for a month. Someone who takes their medication as prescribed for a month will always take it consistently. False. Oh, you guys cheat. I'm just kidding. They're just really tuned in. Right. So the idea being, why might you take medication consistently for a whole month and then peter off later? Why? Come on, tell me. You feel better. I didn't feel sick in the first place. I just did it because my wife made me for the first month and she stopped asking. Why else? Lazy. Ah, but we said they weren't lazy just because they didn't do it. But maybe the power of that conversation they had with somebody a month ago kind of faded in importance. Maybe something else really important is going on. Maybe they've got a kid graduating from high school this month and thinking about yourself is just not the jam right now. Maybe maybe no money. Maybe you can't afford your prescriptions this month because something else trumped it. You know, your kid wants to go to prom or you know, you want to eat. I don't know. Either one. Okay. How about this one? A person's past can make them act like they don't want your help. Yes. Anybody ever met one of those? Anybody ever been one of those? Right. So if somebody has a negative experience in the past, either because the person they talked with that was in your role or a similar role wasn't super helpful to them from their perspective, or because they heard a lot of bad news and they're flinching because they hope they don't hear any more. Like, let's take Charlie, the last guy, where he's got borderline diabetes right now, and he's got hypertension. So probably the last time he went in to see the clinic, he heard, you've got high blood pressure, and if this keeps up, you might have a heart attack, right? So then the next time he comes, does he want to hear about that again? He may or may not. It might be scary. And so he may act like, oh, I've been eating better. Oh, yeah, no, I changed. I don't know. I must just have high blood pressure because I was rushing this morning, right? So it'll change the way we behave, our history of something. Wait, I'm pressing buttons. Okay, there we go. Having anxiety or depression can affect diet, exercise, and medication adherence. Absolutely, right? We know those things are hard to do when you don't have depression, but when you add depression on top, what can that do to it? Let's take depression and exercise. What can depression do to people's motivation to do exercise or ability to execute exercise? Yeah, it can kind of sap it away, right? Because some of those hallmark symptoms of depression are that they have low energy, low motivation, right? They can feel tired all the time, so they don't want to exercise. In fact, in the world of depression treatment, if there is a silver bullet of behavior for depression, it's behavioral activation. It's doing stuff. That's the stuff that can help in the long run. So in fact, if you help somebody figure out some small exercise that they can do that they couldn't before, you might actually help both their health and their depression at the same time. Does that make sense? So that's a good double-double. So if you have to pick a goal for somebody who's got depression and other health conditions, figuring out how to help them move might actually be a double whammy. We love those. And actually, if they also feel stressed out, it's a triple whammy because stress management and exercise are buddies. Okay, when people are frustrated about their health and lack of success in making changes, they can become angry and uncooperative. Yes. Have you guys ever gone to a Zumba class? Anybody here gone to a Zumba class? When you go to those, you can be like jumping up and down and sweating like crazy and working out extra hard. And the person right next to you might be just kind of phoning it in. And then the next time you come to class, they go, it's so great. I lost 5 pounds for being here. And you're like, I lost 2 ounces, but I'm feeling good about me and I'm going to keep trying to hang in there. Yes? Sometimes our health change journey can look really different than somebody else doing the exact same things as us. That can be frustrating. So my suggestion is don't look at anybody else's change plan, especially if you're looking between genders or between age chunks. Like if you're 18 and you start eating salad, you're going to lose weight. If you're 50 and you start eating salad, you might have to add a few things to that before you see the change happen. That makes sense? So don't look between the age ranges. Don't even look at your neighbor next to you. Everybody's journey is different. But in the meantime, it can make people angry and uncooperative if they tried to make some change and it didn't do anything. Okay, excuse me. So motivational interviewing. How many of you heard that term before? It's okay, you can raise your hand on Zoom. I don't mind. For most folks, this is the language that's been going around, is sort of a popular kind of way of talking about or gaining momentum, a strategy for talking about how to motivate folks. And it's one that I've been trained in, and I think what I like about it is some of the spirit of it is what's really helpful. And then when we talk about specific strategies, it gives you a place to start. And I like that about it. So basically what it says is a client-centered directive method for embracing intrinsic motivation to change by exploring and resolving ambivalence. Makes sense. We're good, right? That's totally clear. No jargon there. Okay, come on. That's like the biggest jargon sentence phrase I've ever heard in my life. So what does it mean? It says we put the person we're trying to work with at the front, and what matters for them, their truth, their world, that's all we're going to focus on. It's a way of understanding that people are intrinsically motivated, meaning there is motivation inside everybody for health. There's also motivation inside them to keep watching TV. But what we're going to do is we're going to help them weigh the pros and cons of those two things. And that's the strategy we're going to use to help them decide if they want to make a change and what that change might be. Does that make sense? So that's the whole thing we're going to try to do right here, is understand how they see it and help them weigh out their options. Yes? Okay. So here's the question. When somebody, I don't know, let's pick a concern that we want to, when somebody wants to lose weight is always the easy one. Quit smoking. When somebody wants to quit smoking, most of the time, the first thing that someone who wants to help them does is what? Give them all the reasons not to smoke, right? Did you know it's bad for your health? Did you know this? Did you know it's going to make you look old? Do you know that it makes your teeth yellow, right? Did you know that it means you're not going to be able to walk up a flight of stairs without breathing? Do you know you smell? That what we often do when we're trying to help somebody decide to make a change is put all of our energy on the side of explaining what's bad about their current behavior. And then we don't spend time looking at the other side. What's the other side? Why they do it? What do we get? What do they get out of doing it? Because right now in their lives, their math says that it's actually, there's more reasons to do it than not do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. That's our assumption. So if you spend all your time over here putting all your emphasis on the reason somebody shouldn't smoke, guess what they're going to do in their brain? Apparently, they couldn't see me in my pink shirt. I didn't know. Hi, guys. Okay. So, right, if we spend all the time over here, human nature is going to make us back up the other side because we feel two ways about it. We're going to make sure that it's fair. So we're always going to go in there and we're going to try to argue for the side that isn't represented. So if I tell you, let's do flossing teeth. Shall we talk about flossing teeth for a minute? Okay. Don't show your hands, but inside your soul, I want you to raise your hand if you brushed your teeth this morning. Okay. Now, how many of you flossed your teeth this morning? Could we all agree that flossing your teeth is a good thing to do? Anybody want to give me a good reason to floss teeth? Why should we floss our teeth? This one you can say out loud. Why? Gum care. Gum care. I was like, we don't care. Yes, we do. Gum care. Right. Flossing our teeth makes us have healthier gums. Why else? Helps prevent cavities. What else? Social acceptance. Because you're going to have a better smile. You're not going to have funky letters hanging out your gums. Yes. What else? Do you guys know flossing your teeth helps prevent heart disease? Yes, right? I mean, there's like good stuff on the list of why we should floss. But in most rooms I've ever asked, the vast majority have brushed their teeth this morning, and only a handful of nerds have flossed. Sorry, I'm going to call you nerds for a minute. I hope that's okay. Right? And so I go, okay, why the difference? And if I sat with somebody who thought that flossing was a good idea but wasn't doing it, then I'm actually sitting in front of somebody who's not taking care of their diabetes well, or someone who wants to start exercising, or someone who wants to quit smoking, or someone who's having a hard time taking their kids to school regularly when they should be, right? All of those are the same thing. You can have reasons that you know something is a good idea and still not be doing it. Anybody have that in their lives? Something that they think they should change about how themselves or how they do things, but they're not really doing it yet? That's the zone we're going to be working on. We're going to help folks figure out, hey, is this something you want to change? And is now when you want to change it? Okay, now let's figure out whether or not this is the change to make. But to start, we have to understand that sometimes you can know you have to floss your teeth and you still didn't do it today. That's our zone. Are you feeling it? And if I sat with somebody and argued with them all the reasons why they should floss their teeth, do you know what they're going to do back? Argue back at me about all the reasons it's a humbug. So I don't want to start by just trying to change their mind. Okay? Are you feeling it? Yes? Okay. You're not sure yet. It's cool. We'll get there. Okay. So here's the thing. When you think about motivational interviewing, the style, the mindset is that you're not wrestling with the person in front of you trying to make them change. You are dancing with them, hoping they shift into change on their own, right? When you anybody ever partner danced? It's not very hip these days, but in the olden days, we all danced as with partners. When you dance with a partner, do you like dancing with a partner who pushes you over there and makes you go that way? No, you guys trip and fall. Great leaders, great partners in dance help you know where to move without actually pushing you to do it. They create a space where you move into. That's what we're trying to do with this, okay? And it also means sometimes the patient's in the lead. Here's the truth. There is no kind of health care or community outreach or counseling that we can provide where we can actually make anybody's life better by what we say. All of the power to make life better lies with the person. Because let's go, physician examples are good. A physician can do the absolute best diagnosis of the person. They can say, if you take this pill or do this regimen exactly as I say, you will live a long, healthy, happy life. Guess what has to happen after that? Oh, come on, we got community people in the room. What happens after that? They have to go get it from the pharmacy. They have to be able to afford it. They have to understand the pharmacist who explains, if they do, how to take it. And then they have to choose to take it in the way the doctor prescribed. All of those pieces mean that nothing, virtually nothing about health lies solely in the hands of the healthcare team until we make the patient the part of the team. That's why all of the way we talk with them has to be different. We have to afford them the respect of understanding this is a choice they're going to make, because they can also just choose not to come back. So the connection and helping them make a good choice for themselves is really what it's all about. For some of you, you're like, duh, of course. That's the only way I operate. And for other folks, it feels like frustrating when you're like, but it really matters. I don't want the person in front of me to die. I don't want them to lose custody of their children. I don't want all those things to happen to them. And so what you want to do is shake them and tell them. And in that moment, to then instead release and help them talk through and make a choice for themselves about what they can change. It's tricky, but that's where we're heading. Are you feeling it? That's what MI is. Okay. Okay. Oh, we did this. I'm so glad. Okay. So we always assume people feel two ways about something. Part of them wants to change, part of them doesn't want to change. In our smoking example, it was, I know smoking is bad for me and is killing me in chunks over the course of my life, but, what's the but? Fill me in. But I like it because I can't handle stress without it. But it calms me down at the end of the day, right? Or I know one day I'm going to need to quit, but not right now because life is too stressful, right? So there's going to be that place where somebody feels two ways about something. And almost any change, you're going to feel that. Okay, here's the core example of ambivalence. 16-year-old girl, bad Jimmy Dean boyfriend. Yes, James Dean, is that a reference you guys can handle? Yes, leather jacket, kind of Fonzie hair. Yes, okay. So if you can talk with a teenage girl about a bad boyfriend who's disrespectful to her parents and makes her skip school or whatever, you can switch the genders, you can make them same gender, I don't care. But the two partners are like that. If you can talk with that girl about the bad boyfriend, then you can help somebody with diabetes. You can help somebody who's homeless make a choice about changing their living situation. You can do any of it, because that's where we're at. Somebody who's really committed to one thing they're doing and really committed to their values, but maybe they don't all line up. Okay? Are you feeling it? Any of you wincing because you were the James Dean? Or you were the anyway, okay. Let's keep going. Okay, this is persuasion. See the cat? What it's doing to the other cat? Eat the food, it's good for you, right? Come on, just eat. You'll be healthy if you just eat. Okay. How come that doesn't work? That's a lot of times what we're doing when we're trying to talk somebody into something we know is good for them. That's what we're doing. And even if you have the gentlest hand in the world, it's kind of like momming them, we call it, although I hate to take moms under the bus on that one because I think moms talk all different ways. But that's the idea, that we know what's good for you more than you do. And if you just do what I say, life will be better. That does not usually bring a good response from the gray cat, does it? What does the gray cat usually do in a moment like that? Thank you. We got a paw swipe from the left. Right. Shoo. Even if that gray cat loves the food in the bowl, loves it, not going to want to eat it because somebody's pushing down on their neck. And if you think about it, sometimes the changes we're wanting them to choose are not their very favorite. They don't love them a lot, but they have to make it anyway, right? Is it more fun to drink alcohol or not drink alcohol if you've been drinking alcohol every day for the last 20 years? For most of them, it's easier to drink more alcohol than to stop. It's part of their routine, whatever it is. And so sometimes we're talking with somebody about something that on the surface is not more fun than the thing they're doing right now. More fun to eat extra value meal from McDonald's or not eat it, if that's your thing. It's salty, it's delicious, those French fries are warm. It's more fun to eat it than not eat it. But still, we're hoping that someone makes a choice that they're not going to eat it because it's better for them in the long run, right? That's what we're shooting for. If that's what we're trying to do, then we really have to help them make a choice, because if we just put the kale in front of them and go eat it, yikes, right? They're not going to. And then they're going to not want to do it ever, instead of being able to consider that maybe one day they would. By the way, I don't really think that diet and nutrition is all about kale versus extra value meals. I think there's somewhere in between, but that's just from me to you. Kale's yummy to me, but not to everyone. You know what I mean? Kind of crunchy. Anyway, okay. So here's the thing. A lot of times in our standard practice, providers try to persuade. They're doing the cat move, right? By giving advice, by giving information, and arguing against change, right? I mean, arguing for change. And what happens is the patient argues right back. Well, I got a lot of pressure in my life right now, doc. I think I just ate bad this week, but in general, I don't eat like this. So no, I don't think your tests are right. Those kinds of things happen. And what happens is the person digs in, right? They're like the gray cat. They're not going to do it anymore. So what we're going to do is try to focus on opening the conversation differently. Remember, I was saying, consider your approach. So we're going to think about how you ask about the issue. And to do that, we can talk about a lot of different kinds of strategies. But how many of you have heard of open-ended questions? Heard what those are? What are they? Was that an open-ended question? It was a tricky one. It was actually open because you could have answered with anything. But it sounded very closed in the way that I did it, didn't it? So if I said, so are you ready to quit smoking right now? Is that an open-ended question? Because there's a yes or a no, right? So somebody, okay, if we're talking about, you guys want to do quitting smoking? I don't know, pick a behavior we want someone to change. Anybody? Someone you can picture in your head. Something you've had to try to talk somebody about this week. Thank you, drinking soda. Oh, you're making me thirsty. Okay, so if we wanted to talk with somebody and we've run the math, we've talked to them for a long time about their whole diet, and they drink a 6-pack a day of soda, sugar-full leaded soda. And we go, you know, I think their numbers would be a lot better if they could reduce their soda. I think I want to talk with them about that. Is that fair? Okay, so what's a closed-ended question we could ask to make sure the conversation stops right now? If we wanted to chase them away and make them go buy soda right now, what do we say to them? Oh, come on. Imagine you're the most closed-minded person in the world. You're a closed-ended person. How would you say it if you wanted a yes-no answer? Did you know that soda's bad for you? No, I didn't know that, right? The neck starts wagging, right? Now, what might we ask if we wanted to get a conversation going where we really wanted the person to consider soda? Hey, there we go. That's a nice start, right? Or maybe we start with a statement. You know, I was looking at this whole diet that that all the things you tell me about what you're eating, and and it looks to me like you have about a 6-pack of soda a day. What do you think about that? And they go, I don't know. And say, is that about where you'd like it to be? Is that, because you could say, for example, is that something that you thought about cutting down on? Now that's a closed-ended question, but there's a way to keep them going, right? The other way might be to say, okay, of all the parts of your diet we talked about today, if we were looking, like you'd said, you wanted to cut down on sugar, because that's something that we've talked about, what might be an area where you could do that? So we might even zoom way back and go, I think it's the soda, but right now, I'm going to ask them which one they want to do, right? And then they go, I just really don't know. Well, let's look at soda. What do you think about the soda number? And then you start talking. So open-ended questions are good. Did you see how I went, when they said, I don't know? That's an affirming statement. What I'm doing is I'm telling them if they're not sure, or if they're puzzled, or if they make any assertion at all, like, well, I really need the soda, and for me, that's a quick way to get energy, so I don't really want to do that right now, but I can work on the rice. Then even though I know they only eat rice, in small portions, it wouldn't be a big deal by itself. If that's what they pick, I go, okay, so rice is a place you feel like you could start right now. Yes. Okay, cool. That's an affirming statement. Reflecting is where you basically say back to the person what they just said. And have any of you guys ever tried that technique before, like in a counseling class or something? It sounds very Mickey Mouse, but it's funny how it works really well. But we'll get there in a minute. So if somebody said, okay, we'll do the one about I'm going to do this one about you think pills are bad for you. So somebody says to a person who's got depression, you know, I really think that one of the options for helping you to feel better is to start on a medication that can help you feel more even, feel more like yourself more of the time, where things don't hurt your feelings as bad, you know, kind of in here. And it's something that I think could help you feel more like yourself more days than not. What do you think about that? And they go, oh, you know, I don't know, because, you know, I don't like taking pills, and I think it might be doing more harm than good inside my body. I don't know what those chemicals are doing because they're not natural. Yes? Heard that before? Okay, so what would a reflection be? Somebody reflect that back to me. I got her, no worry. So she said, so I hear you say that you're concerned that taking pills might be harmful to you in some way. And so when we're doing a reflection, you want to be careful with your inflection, because if she wanted to say that like the librarian who's talking to someone who talks too loud with the glasses on the nose, she's, so you think that taking pills might harm you in some way, right? And I could convey to the person that I don't agree with them just by how I look at them when I say it. But if I said, so your main concern here is really, what is it doing to my body, and is it harmful to me in the long run? When I say it like that, does it sound like I think their concern is legitimate? Yeah. Yes. Now, does that mean I'm done talking about antidepressant medication? No. But at least I know where to start. To say, okay, so when we're weighing this out, you feel, if you had more information about what the long-term effects would be, do you think that would be a good, useful thing for you in this? Should we figure that out right now? And then we see where it goes from there. But that idea of reflecting back to them what they just said gets them talking some more. Okay? So if you're ever in a conversation with somebody and you want them to keep talking because you don't know what to do with what they just said, it's huge. You have no idea where to go from here, right? Just reflect back to them what they just said, and they will pick up the ball and keep going. Okay? So if you said, so the person goes, I don't know about medicine. You know, I don't think it's natural, and I'm concerned about what it does to my body. Doesn't that sound like a person who's stopping a conversation? So you'd be like, okay, you don't want pills. Well, let's try this instead, right? You kind of like change directions. But if you still want to go there, then you say, so your main concern is about what this is doing to your body in the long term. And then the person goes, yeah, and then they keep talking. So all of a sudden you have a conversation that keeps moving instead of one that stops and you have to go somewhere else. So anytime you get stuck and you feel like with a person there's a push-pull, the first thing you can do is slow down, take a breath, and say back to them what they just said to see if you can get them going more, okay? Reflection. But remember, if you bring your sassy tone, so will they, okay? Okay. Here's the thing. When we're trying to help somebody live healthier, whatever that means, whether we're talking about health behaviors or we're talking about just life choice behaviors, we have a lot of tools in our resources, right? And the first one is information and education, right? So that's the one where we have a role to provide to them information they might not have about nutrition, if we're talking about soda, or medication, if we're talking about taking antidepressants for depression, or about, you know, the one that I was saying about a depressed parent who can't get their kids to school on time, and so their kids at risk of having ed neglect, right, charges. Yes, we know. Okay, so if that happens, one of the things the parent needs is information to say, you know, if your child is absent more than this many days a month, the school policy is that they have to call CPS. And so if the person doesn't have the information, we have to give them information. Then the next thing we do is we have to engage in a shared decision-making process. That's where we're choosing, what should we do about it? Okay, here's the information. I got everything I need to know. I know what my lab levels are, and I know that I don't want to have a heart attack. So what am I going to do about this high blood pressure? And then we also have things like setting goals. So once we decide on how we're going to tackle this, so the person says, oh, I don't want to go after the soda yet. That's my lifeline. I would rather go after rice. And we go, okay, so what are we going to do about rice? That's called setting goals. So now we're going to set a goal. And then we're going to talk about what stops them from doing it. Those are called barriers. So anytime you guys agree with anybody about any plan that you're going to have with somebody, like they're going to go, okay, I'm with you. By the next time I see you, I will have made an appointment with my doctor, or I will have done this or that or the other thing. I will buy vegetables. The thing you should ask before they walk out the door is, okay, now tell me what's going to get in your way. Tell me what could happen that could stop you from doing that. And they go, well, I actually don't have money, so I can't go buy apples right now. If you don't ask them what's going to stop them, it's going to stop them anyway. And then you don't have any chance to fix it. So you kind of want to problem solve anything that could get in the way right at the start. And then the next time they come back, you'll want to make sure you asked about it. Because if you give them some goal or some homework to do and then you don't ask about it later, they're never going to do it again. That's just how that works. Because it's fragile, right? This relationship you have with them, where you're the person on the team trying to help them figure out how to change. Okay. So we need to figure out how to get somebody to decide they want to change, right? We have to decide to help somebody who has really, really high blood sugar to get better control of their blood sugar. So we want to ask good questions that get them talking about the reasons they would want to make a change in the first place, okay? So here they are. Here are some examples of them. So what worries you about your health? So, you know, Charlie goes to the doctor twice in 5 years because his wife made him. That guy, remember him? If you said to Charlie, what worries you about your health? You might get somewhere different than if you just start with, okay, so have you been working on that high blood pressure of yours, Charlie? What's he going to say? Well, yeah, doc, you know, I eat pretty good. My diet's not so bad. I don't know why it says that. I think I was running on the way here from the car. I think that's why my blood pressure is still high. Yes, lots of times patients use humor to kind of deflect when they're nervous about stuff like that. But if you said, what worries you about your health? Now, somebody could say nothing, but most people will give you an answer, right? Think about your own answer. What worries you about your health? Think in your head. You don't have to say it out loud. Almost everybody, even like triathletes, have something they worry about their health. For them, it's their joints because, you know, they be banging on them bones running around all the time. Yes, triathletes move a lot. Anyway, all right, never mind. Okay. Or get more specific. In what ways does your high blood pressure concern you? Now, if I said to Charlie, does your blood pressure worry you? What's his answer? Nah, I'm all good, doc. I don't know. I feel like my blood sugar don't get too high except when my kids make me crazy, right? Or whatever he might say. So if you say, does it worry you? The answer can be no. But if you say, what? In what ways does it concern you? Or what are you worried about your blood pressure? It prompts them to have an answer. Are you feeling me? These are those like tricky, open-ended questions that get somebody thinking. What are you struggling with when it comes to your diabetes? Are we familiar with diabetes as a lifestyle? It's not easy. There's a lot of poking. There's a lot of writing stuff down. There's pills. There's keeping track of stuff. There's keeping track of your diet, right? You're supposed to be moving all the time. It's kind of like you have to live advanced placement how we should all live. But you got to do it or you get in trouble with your blood sugars right away. So it's like your blood sugar tells on you real quick. Yes? So if I said to somebody with pristine numbers who has a diabetes diagnosis, but their A1C is like 5.6, they're killing it. They're crushing it in life. Even them, if I said, what are you struggling with when it comes to your diabetes? Even they have an answer. So this is a good question to ask anybody who's trying to manage diabetes. And whatever they tell you they're struggling with, go with them. Because any change would help. So somebody with diabetes, somebody who's smoking, somebody with hypertension, if they all got more sleep, if they all drank more water, if they all exercised, it would be a good thing for any of them. So you don't have to always go, I need to make the most important change right now. You just want them to start with a change. Because for most of these health conditions, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And better than you get them to say they're going to check their blood sugar and they're really not more than a week. If you get them to actually try eating lettuce or a vegetable, one serving of vegetables once a day, that could be this huge thing that happens in their life. So you want to go where they're willing to go. Are you feeling me? Okay. Now, sometimes people go, yeah, I'm worried about my diabetes, but I'm more worried about my kids. You ever met anybody who said something like that? Or I'm worried about my partner. I'm a caregiver for my mother, and her appointments take up all my time, so I don't have time to come for my appointments. Have you heard that before? Some of you? Okay. So when that happens, are we stuck? Do we go, oh, you're right. Well, come back next year. Maybe maybe when she doesn't need you as much anymore. Okay. If you're a caregiver, they're never going to need you less, right? And if we're just waiting for that person's needs to stop before you can have needs, we might be waiting a long time. You guys know the data on caregivers? They tend to die sooner than the people they take care of. Yeah, it's a real bummer for both of them, right? So if we're trying to talk to somebody who's a caregiver, we're going to need to help them figure out why it matters that they go to the doctor too. Yes, this is a perfect motivation conversation. So somebody, give me a question you might ask that would get them to reflect on that, on choosing to skip their doctor appointment versus go. That's a scary question. Who will take care of your loved one if you're not there? I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, that might get them to think about the importance. But how might we say it in a way that would get them to be aware of it and maybe choose it on their own? So maybe we're going to ask a question like, how can we help you to be healthier so that you're able to do your caregiving for a long time? We're going to try to connect it to the role they think is most important. Sometimes I go, okay, so mom's doctor's appointments, how do you manage to coordinate all that? Oh, well, I put it on a schedule and all this stuff. And then I go, okay, well, I know you were saying your health stuff is important, but it's hard to fit it in too. Do you think it could fit somewhere in the planning you do for mom stuff? Oh, maybe. Like, it's funny. Sometimes the diet I want the caregiver to eat looks a lot like what they feed their mom. You're like, buddy, how about you just eat with mom? Let's do this. But see, if I just solve the problem, how long are they going to eat breakfast? Tomorrow, maybe. But if we talk about, okay, what's the importance of eating breakfast? Why does this one matter to you? Or is there but you know, sometimes I ask that and I go like, okay, well, maybe you should just eat with mom. And they're like, no, that's my only break is when she's eating, I can go do 7 other chores. And we go, oh, okay. So maybe we pick something that looks more like a break because maybe we're going to do something stress management or something exercise because getting the person to take their pills and eat a better diet is just too tangled up right now. Okay, cool. Let's start with a break. Not you guys. We're going to keep going. Okay. Okay. So sometimes how you help somebody get ready to make change is by is asking them about their own experience of having made change before. So sometimes when I'm doing like those million questions, everybody has to ask every patient, like, do you smoke? Then you say, have you ever smoked? And they say, oh, I quit when I had my kids or whatever they say. And you go, okay, well, tell me how you did that. How did that go? Usually when I ask those questions, tell me about a time when you've made a big change in your life before. What happened? What did you need? You can learn how they make change. Some people are cold turkey people and some people are inch by inch, right? Some people have to have a really, really big reason that matters a lot, right? They need the big why. And for other people, they just need to know that that's what their planner says to do, right? And so however they made that big change happen, learn from that. They're the expert in change for them. Cool. Okay, and then here's some more good questions. You can always flip back to these later on when you're trying this stuff out. I just wanted you to have it. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is a little practice thing. For those of you who are here in the room or anywhere where there's more than one person watching this, buddy up. For those of you who are all by yourself in front of a computer, now is a really great chance to practice talking to yourself. The most important role here is the person who's uttering the words. So if you're by yourself, please do not pretend to be the patient. That's not going to serve you very well. Pretend you're the primary care provider or the caregiver or the provider in this case. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to think back to Charlie. Remember him? Wife pushed him through the door kicking and screaming. He's only been here twice in 5 years. You discussed diet and exercise with him at the last visit, but there's been no change in his weight or blood pressure, and his A1C is now up to 5.9%. So what do we know from if you're like in the healthcare field, what do we know about this guy? We've already done information, no change, okay? In fact, a little bit worse. Okay, cool, so that's who we're talking to. What I want you to do with your partner is I want one of you to be the patient, and one of you is gonna bring out your inner Charlie, and one of you is gonna be the provider, and you ask open-ended questions to get Charlie to identify a change he wants to make. So you know you're done when Charlie says, well, I guess I could something, okay? That's how we're gonna know we're done. Okay, before we start, if you have any questions, make up the best answer you can come up with that gets you talking right now, okay? Don't worry, this is not pass or fail. Cool? Okay, here we go, ready? Raise your hand if you're Charlie. No, we only have 3 Charlies. You're gonna be busy. Okay, one's Charlie and one's provider. Don't worry, we're gonna flip in a minute. So do it now, this one's easier, okay? Be the provider now, it's easier. Are you ready? Okay, rock and roll. Here we go, hit it. Okay, everybody, we're gonna come back to front. Some of you were on your way. How many of you got Charlie to say something useful yet? And how many of you were, yes? Because some of you are already talking about somebody at the office right now. I'm just kidding. Oh, Boston, just kidding. Okay, so somebody want to share how it went? Do you mind?
Yeah, it went okay.
Check.
Yeah, next.
See, I said, does somebody want to share how it went? And she said, yes, it was fine. So for the next one, somebody share what it was like to be Charlie. Anybody who was Charlie want to share?
I had to get in my old man mode.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I was thinking about what's going on right now, the weather. That's why I'm not coming.
That's why I'm not exercising. It's raining.
I'm so worried about the rain and the traffic and my yard and the mud.
How did it feel with that person trying to talk with you about health right now?
I was trying as hard as I could to put her off. You know. And she just kept coming back. She wasn't going to go away.
She wasn't going to go away. I like it. So that's the thing. That's the real thing from a patient. I really appreciate that sharing. Thank you so much. Because a patient often doesn't really want to leave here with new homework where they're going to have to exercise. But if you can keep having them feel heard and help them come to a place where they're going to say it themselves, we're going to get there. Okay? So you get them to say it themselves. Okay, and you're all awake again, which is wonderful. Okay. So here's the thing. Culturally speaking, we have a very diverse population here in Hawaii, right? So when you approach them, some folks are not as accustomed to a collaborative style where it's like, what goal would you like to have? They're more of the folks who want to be told and they write it down and they do it. Now, here's the thing. If you guys are working with somebody where you tell them what they need to do and they write it down and they come back and it's done, you don't need MI with them. That's called easy. That's the 10% population. Sorry, that's 10%. They're the guys who are gonna reach health. All they need is information. Once we get to the folks where they have information, but after that, no change, even if they're not accustomed to that collaborative style, you kind of have to find a blend so that we get them to tell you the truth. Because a lot of times, folks have a real deferential style if they have that perspective about health providers, like I'm supposed to like yes ma'am them a lot. So you wanna work around that if you need to. If it works, great. If they don't, you don't. The other thing is that they have suspicion that you're trying to trap them with all these questions, right? And check yourself, because if you are trying to trap them, they're right? So that's when you remind yourself that they have to choose. And all you want to do is help them figure out, do they want to choose? And then what would they choose? And then they lean on you for expertise about how to make a choice that's the best for their effort. So that's one of the places I like to put myself as a provider, is in, I'm going to sit next to you and we're going to look at all the options. We're going to look at the data in front of us together. We're going to decide. And then my expertise is going, juicing. Anybody familiar with juicing? So you take like a whole gallon of vegetables and you grind it down and then it's like one shot glass. Yes, juicing. Okay, juicing, for example, this is one of my favorite examples. To juice something, you got to lug a lot of vegetables. You got to shop a lot. And then you get some health benefit from it. depending on your health, I'm not advocating juicing. Here's what I'm saying. Some health change efforts take lots of energy and only result in small amount of health change. Other health changes take small amounts of energy and time and actually show up in your numbers. Like, you know, taking the medication that's in your purse right now on time today, for example. Just saying. Or your man bag or whatever. So when we think about change, our role, we're going to talk about self-management goals now, is to help them pick one that they want to do, but help them pick one that's actually going to get them some results. So that's where you come back in with that knowledge and that expertise in coaching. You're also going to help them refine it so that it's not an unrealistic goal. Here's an unrealistic goal. I will never, ever again in my life eat a cookie. That's not going to happen. It's just, I'm sorry, or a cake. Even if you don't like it, someone's going to shove it in your face on your birthday. You know what I mean? So what we want to do is help them pick goals that are realistic. We're also going to figure out how to help them understand that, yes, this is going to take some effort right now, but we want to pick goals where the early effort is the figuring out the routine. But once they figure out the routine, it's something they could actually see themselves doing for many years to come. So that's the thing. You want to ask yourself, or you ask the person when they do it. So you're going to send them away and you're going to tell them about their condition, right? You're going to say, your blood pressure reading came back and it's 180 over 110. And what that means is that you are in the range where you're at risk for a heart event because your heart is having to work really, really hard to push the blood through your blood vessels. And it can make your heart tired. And it can cause blockages and blah, 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 right? You can do the whole thing. You can talk about also about hardening arteries and cholesterol and where that fits in, whatever. You're going to tell them about what they need to know about their health condition. You're also going to talk, especially for blood pressure. If I'm so sick, how come I don't feel bad? Right? Because a lot of times folks with high blood pressure cannot feel when their blood pressure is elevated. So you're going to have to talk them through all that stuff. And then you might explain to them, here are some options for treatment. You're going to list them for them, right? And you're going to talk about how they work. You're going to answer questions. And then you're going to talk about what they can do to fix it. Now, I want you to remember, write it on your list. If you're talking about what they can do, you can say diet change, lower sodium, reduce saturated fats. You can talk about eat more vegetables. You can talk about exercise. But I want you to remember that telling them to choose to remember to take their medication without fail is a big one. So just remember that med adherence is the person's choice, right? And then help them know small changes are better because radical shift changes are hard to maintain, right? If I lived one way today and I leave a completely different way tomorrow, I eat different, I move different, my whole schedule is different, how long before the original factory settings come back? But if instead I make a small change that I know I can actually keep, like I pick a vegetable I like instead of one I don't like and eat that, you're more likely to continue doing it. And you always want to pick those goals they're still going to be doing in 5 years. Because if you only pick goals they can do for the next 6 months, then in 6 months, they're also going to have to feel bad that they failed. And you don't want to do that to them anymore. They do that to themselves enough about how they're not doing well enough by their health. So we want to change that. Okay, so remember Lei? She's the one that loves chocolate and salty things and hates healthy stuff. Remember her? Okay. So what information does Lei need? So she said, I really love high fat, high sodium foods, and I hate healthy things. And look, this is just the way that I am. If I want chocolate, I'm going to eat it. If I want something salty, I won't deprive myself. She's got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, asthma, and depression. What does she need to know? That she may not know already. Oh, come on, something hopeful. How about something hopeful? She might need to know that she doesn't have to give up chocolate to live healthy. She might need to know she doesn't have to give up those foods forever and ever. We're just trying to figure out how much and how often. And we might be able to find things that she could do to change that wouldn't hurt so bad as giving up her precious French fries. Sorry, precious to me. I'm just projecting. Okay. What might she need to know about treatments? Anybody? What's treatment for high blood pressure, generally speaking? Anybody know? Medication's a big one, right? Meditation's another one. Reduce sodium, exercise. So you might need her to share with her, these are all the things you could do to make it better. Where do you think you could start? Right? So we might give her some information. And then we want to know, we want her to decide to do it right now. So we're going to do, I know this is a lot to take in, right? We gave her all that information and we're going to say, what do you think you could do about all this? And they go, I don't know. Maybe go, okay, making changes to your diet isn't always an easy thing to do, especially with everything else you've got going on in your life right now, job, kids, family. It takes time and focus. So the question is it worth it to work on this right now? And what would make it worth it for you? So in helping somebody decide, you're asking them very concretely, is it worth it to do this? And is it worth it to do it right now? And if it isn't worth it right now, what would make it worth it? So if this person says, no, it's just not worth it for me right now to take on a whole new thing. I feel overwhelmed and I can't handle it, right? Because they've got depression. Everything is overwhelming. So what if you said to them, what would make it worth it? If she's got job, kids, and family to concentrate on. If you said, what if you could go to bed at night, at the end of every night, and you could not feel so worn out that you can't imagine going on another day? Like you had more energy in the day. Do you think that would be worth it for you? Oh yeah, I would do anything to get more energy. Okay, the person wants more energy. Do you know what you can do to get more energy in your day? I got a list of my 5 favorite things. Ready? More energy. Exercise, sleep, eat better. What else? Come on, give me 2 more. More energy. What gives you more energy? Drink water. What else? Eat chocolate. Have fun. Have fun. Laugh. Joy. So this person, because they struggle with depression, might need some self-care. Give yourself a break. Let's do something you love. Watch something that makes you laugh. Homework first. And then the person might feel like they're in a space to do something harder. That's where mental health and health are the same thing. Are you feeling me? Now here's the thing. If you laugh, guess what? You're using ab muscles. It's exercise. Woohoo! Just, whatever. You got this. You start them somewhere and then you move, okay? Really, really think about your delivery. Is this a person who would be overwhelmed by handouts, or someone where they're like kind of stunned and so they need something to read later? Are they the person where you really need to have their support person around to talk about the instructions or the change plan so that someone else can retell it to them later? If this is the first time you're telling them about a diagnosis, a condition, or new information, just know they're probably not hearing past the part where you gave them the diagnosis. They don't hear you anymore. So if they're not hearing you anymore, you got to figure out what to do to support them after. Now, for some people, storytelling, pictures, metaphors are much more salient than just the facts, ma'am. And for other people, they're like, why are you talking to me about flossing my teeth? You want me to floss my teeth too? And I'm like, no, I was just using it. Okay, then we leave the flossing on the side and we focus on the thing they really need to do. Almost everyone I've ever met and worked with appreciates a little 3x5 card, nothing bigger, with what are their 3 things they're supposed to do on it. No more than 3, 1 is better. Because if you give them this like long handout, you know how like the EMRs print out this mile-long thing? Where does that end up by the end of the day? At sunset, where is that? Circular file in my floor of the car, that's called carpet. It ends up on the floor, and I don't even mean it to. I meant well, but that big floppy paper, it just gets all rumpled and crazy. So while that might have great information on it, and some of them will cling to it for dear life, for some of them, 3x5 card, fold it up, stick that bad boy in your wallet. Then the day before you come see me next time, read it and see if you did it. That's what I tell them, because we gotta be realistic. It's also really good to set a goal they might do anyway. So set a goal they're on their way to doing already, because the first most important thing is that they try. And that they did something you said and they come back and they tell you about it next time. The other really big thing is when they come back, you don't go, so did you do your homework? Ew, I wouldn't want someone to tell me that, right? So you go like, oh, do you remember what we talked about last time? They go, kind of, no, I don't know. And they're like apologizing or they're changing the subject. You go, yeah, remember we were sort of talking about this thing. Did you have a chance to think about that since the last time you were here? And then someone will go, oh yeah, I did my card. And they like did their homework and they're all stoked. And for some of them, no, they super did it. And then oh, we bit off too big of a chunk. Let's start smaller. And by the way, let's do some homework right now in the room. That's what I love. Oh, I love you. Let's do it. Remember we said you were going to do this. Okay, let's do some right now. Boom. Get it done. So it's not pass fail, remember? It's a marathon, not a sprint, health, it turns out, for most people. Yeah, don't scare everybody. Yes, I know hypertension can cause impotence. Don't tell them like that, okay? It can be in the list, but don't tell them like that. Like, you don't want to like let your wife down or whatever you say. I don't know what, right? So it can be in the information section, but if you scare somebody, scare tactics motivate shallow levels of change. People are only going to change in the moment for a short amount of time. If what you want is a systematic commitment to making change to live healthier for the rest of their lives, scaring them doesn't work. That works once. So for some people it works twice, and for some people they have, guilt from their religion that helps them keep doing that to themselves. But at the end of the day, if you want to do long-term change, you got to help them choose it. Okay. So, yeah, I already said that. Okay, that's Leah again. Okay, so what I want to do before we're done is I actually want us to go through the whole thing with Lay from the top, where we say hi to Lay, we tell her about her health conditions, and ask her what she wants to do about it and set a goal. Are you feeling me? Okay, so Lay, remember Lay? She's got high blood pressure and asthma and depression, yes? Okay, so same partners, but if you were the provider, now you're the patient. See, I told you it would be easier. And if you're talking to yourself, keep on doing it. Okay. And what we're going to do is you're going to get Lay and you're going to take her through setting one goal. Okay. So you start at the top. Remember at Charlie, we stopped at, he said, I guess I could. Now, when he says, I guess I could, you're going to take it all the way till, okay, what are you going to get done today? Okay. Set a goal. I have up on here on the slide is the list of all the stuff, the steps that you want to go through. But here's where we're going to go. And you're done when you say back to them, so you're going to blank, 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 blank. And if this gets in your way, you're going to blank, blank, blank. Okay, solid. That's how you know you're done, okay? You don't have to say solid. That's my word. You can say any word you want. Cool? Okay, ready? By the way, we're like 2 minutes from done. Aren't you excited? Okay, here we go. Ready, go. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick time check. How many of you are closing in on the deal? How many of you are done? How many of you are nowhere near anywhere useful? You're stuck and you're scared. Okay, let's stop here. And those of you who didn't raise your hand, we're up here. Okay, we got this. So let's debrief. Somebody who got all the way to the end, tell me what goal you guys finished. Anybody who got all the way to the end? I think the fellas up there raise your hand. Got all the way to the end? Had a very agreeable Lay? And any of you who snipered your partner as Lay and were like so depressed you wouldn't even look at her, come on, be nice. Just kidding. Anybody get all the way to the end? Oh, down here, sorry. No. Oh, here we go, right here. Can you say it again, please? For the World Wide Web.
Lay's goal for her depression was to get out of bed every morning by 7 a.m.
Nice.
That was her goal.
Nice. Yes, good job. You finished. Now here's the thing. Does anybody think that sounds like a funny goal? Because to me, that sounds like a classic, awesome first goal for somebody. Now, the thing is you could think, oh, maybe they're so depressed they can't get out of bed every day. And that might be one reason you had to do that. Another reason to do that is because, have you ever met anybody named yourself who, like, on a Saturday morning, if you get out of bed at 7 o'clock, then you get a whole bunch of stuff done by noon. But if you don't get out of bed by 7, if you lollygag till 8:30, forget chores for the day. Some people have that. And so a goal like that can be a clue that we have a very severely depressed person and we've got to start somewhere, like get out of bed. Or we have somebody who knows themselves and knows that they're more likely to exercise in that time, but they know the first step is getting out of bed. And once they get out of bed, they're good. Some people I know are like this, any dietitians in the room anyway, where if the good food's in the fridge, they'll cook it and eat it. But getting the good food in the fridge, holy moly. So if you can just schedule the grocery store, by the way, almost everybody I know who's ever figured how to schedule it, schedules it on Sunday, just saying, little tip. If they get to the grocery store, healthy eating ensues. Person loses weight. Don't get to grocery store, weight goes up, period. Just saying. Okay, somebody who got stuck. Anybody want to share where they got stuck? Oh, please.
The reason we were talking about it, it's really hard to establish a relationship. And you have to do that in order to get into that motivational phase.
Sure. So some people feel like it's a lot easier to start talking about change with somebody when you have rapport with them already. When, like, we're cool like that. We've had a few chances to chat. Certainly, if you have a long history with somebody, it's a little bit easier. If you have, like, let's say you're in a context where you're not going to get to have that, you have to create the feeling of understanding as quickly as you can. You find the shared reference points, and you have to be what I call a good guesser. So you have to empathize with their experience and guess about how hard it is. And if you're going to guess wrong, guess that it's worse than they experience. Because they can always correct you and go, well, it's not so bad. That's way better than you going like, because it's easy to have diabetes. And they're like, what do you know, lady? Like, you want to guess on the side of severity. So yeah, one of the things you really have to concentrate on, and you can do it in your information sharing. A lot of times when I'm presenting information, that's actually me building rapport. Because you get credibility with somebody when you connect it to what they've said to you. So instead of going, here's a worksheet on hypertension all by itself, and I go, this is the way that hypertension seems to work. And what you were sharing with me about your symptoms or about your experience seems like it lines up. So you line it up with them. That helps to build rapport. You are more credible to talk with them about health change if, when you're describing the condition, they see themselves in it. If they don't see themselves in it and they're like, that doesn't sound like me, then they're not going to feel like you've already done the work of rapport building. So that's where you kind of can catch up a little bit of ground if you don't have the chance to have multiple meetings with them. If you're someone who's going to know them more than one time, then take your time on that. Because you can remember that you're not the only member of their health team. So you can just help them be open to possibilities, and then another provider can give them concrete changes they could make. Or you're the person who mellows them out because they just got a whole lot of scary instruction from another member of their team, and you're the person that helps them figure out what bite-sized piece they can take. And that over time can create a rapport, that you're the person they count on to help them figure out how to get it done. That makes sense? Okay, more comments, thoughts? Anybody else get stuck somewhere? No? Well, that's good. I'm just kidding. I know there's a lot of stuck points where you can stop along the way. Okay. So when we're talking about all of this stuff, one of the things to know is that you also have the option of a referral. So if you talk with somebody and you're helping them set goals for change, if it gets to a point where their stuff is so complicated that it's hard for them to focus on one change, that's a really good time for a referral to some kind of behavioral health. Another time is if they've tried to make the changes and they're not successful, they might need a new strategist. And so you want to bring somebody else into the team to do that. If you have the situation where the data don't add up, That's the way that I say it, which is like their clinical labs suggest things continue to get worse, but they're swearing up and down they take their medication like clockwork. That might be a time for a behavioral health referral because something's not matching. Or if your visits always run over. So like, let's say this is something where you're, you've allotted 45 minutes or you've got 12 minutes to talk to them, primary care setting, 12 minutes, and they always run over, then that might be a time you want them to have somebody else to take a little bit more time to talk with them. And so you might look for somebody who's trained in health behavior change to help with that. And then just like with Lay, because depending on how depressed she is, that stuff might have to get handled first before they can make health change. You might want to bring in another provider. Now that said, sometimes a way to depression is through apples. And what I mean by that is that if you can help somebody make a successful health behavior change, their low mood can lift slowly, but it can because it gives them a sense that part of their world, they can control it. So when you're dealing with somebody with depression and you're making these health behavior change strategies, keep it simple. Don't be like, we have 800 things we can try. That overwhelms somebody who has a condition that's defined by easily overwhelmed. So keep it narrow and give them something to feel good about. Cool? I feel like I'm doing Q&A by myself. And really, that's okay with me. Yeah, we don't have to do that. Okay. So let's just, questions, comments, or a specific case or situation anybody want to bring up? It's okay if you don't, I'll make up some more, but I'd love to hear yours. Yes, please.
So we did get a question along the way. How can you motivate this is from the online people, how can you motivate a low income and food insecure individuals who are not have needs met?
Wonderful. That's a wonderful question. Thank you so much for that. Because of my mission, because of my work and where I am, my assumption is that I start with someone that has low income, has difficulty with food security. Maybe they rely on charitable sources for providing some of their nutrition. And that, I assume that's the normal state of things. And then for folks where they can eat at Whole Foods, that's great for them. Good, go get your kale. We're all set. But if that's not you, that doesn't mean that health behavior change isn't for you. So a couple things. But I appreciate the raising the awareness, because I think sometimes folks think about what the normative food is, like what people have in their fridge, is what they have in their fridge at home themselves. And so just a reminder about that. A common question a dietitian at our office gets is, which is healthier for you, Spam or Vienna sausage? And the answer is it depends, right? Because if we're talking about portions, or we're talking about what else you eat with it, it can really vary. But when we're talking about that, you really have to be ready with those resources. So there are vouchers that you can provide to somebody for farmers markets that provide them with free vegetables, for example, or being knowledgeable about where are sources where you can provide, like at the food bank, there's a specific time of day when they hand out the vegetables. And if you get there at that time, you get them. And if you're late, you don't. So then you become an advocate for your patient and make sure that they know that. The other thing is you don't have to be able to afford to eat at Whole Foods. I'm not picking on them. It's a lovely store. You don't have to be able to afford to eat food from boutique stores in order to live healthy. That's my assumption about life. That's why I was saying, you don't have to only eat kale to live and be well. We're going to take somebody in the world they live in and help them make the healthiest choices they can. That's the goal. So we're going to help them know that if they have a choice between frozen saimin and fried saimin, they should pick frozen, right? So the stuff, the top ramen in the packets, that gets given to them a lot by the food bank. So if they have a choice between that and the frozen stuff, pick the frozen. That one's got less, it's not fried in the way that they preserve it. But if they've got the saimin in the packets, do you know what we help them do if they're trying to control their sodium? Use half the packet. Don't use the packet, put your own in there. Things that they can control in the world that they really, really live in. The other thing is if we have, because some people live in situations where they literally have no control over the kind of food they eat. Someone else provides it. In those instances, we might talk about how much they eat, or what are the relative portions of the food they eat. Or we might focus on exercise because we can't handle the food change. And right now, exercise would help because it would help them get out of it or help them relieve stress in addition to giving them exercise. So I think that the truth of that is you embrace the world the person lives in and be knowledgeable about that. Yes, ma'am. Question up there.
Oh, yeah. How do you motivate a 16-year-old or someone who likes to drink alcohol to take their medicine and go to the doctor?
That's wonderful. Thanks for asking that. That comes up a lot when I work with folks that have teenagers with epilepsy, for example, or type 1 diabetes. The short answer is we start with what matters to them. Now, one of the challenges is that when we're dealing with adults with diabetes or hypertension or epilepsy, a lot of times they have a sense of living that longer life. Like, we don't want stuff to fall apart when you're older. They have more of awareness that they're not invincible and live forever. Well, when you're 16, the things that matter about that are going to be different. So the same strategy makes sense, which is take what matters to them in their world and connect this health stuff to that. That's the goal. So for example, if you want a teenager to think about drinking differently, there's a lot of ways to go there. Now, there's the obvious stuff. Well, you know, it's risky and you could die and, you know, all that stuff. They don't really care that it's pickling their liver so that when they're 40, they're going to have cirrhosis. They don't care. Well, some of them care, but many don't. What they might care about are things like, well, maybe the drinking, you know how drinking makes you be that girl at the party? You know, that girl? Maybe she doesn't want to be that girl anymore. So we're going to talk about what are the social consequences. We're going to talk about maybe how when you observe people who drink, do you like how they act? And if you're, you know, like, so you give them a little social experiment to say, okay, what if you just don't drink this time and watch everybody else? What usually happens if somebody does that is they're terribly bored and they think everybody in the room is acting really dumb. So sometimes you help them become aware of a teenager's reason that drinking alcohol too much or at all is not the jam. See, I even tried a teenager phrase. I know, but there it is. If we're talking about other things, so if we're not talking about alcohol reduction, but we're talking about taking medication, this can be really tricky, right? If kids are medically fragile in some way or they have some chronic condition as children, it's really difficult when you have type 1 diabetes to care about your blood sugar, except that the consequences for most childhood conditions are pretty immediate, right? So if you don't manage your blood sugars, if you don't, you know, take your medication as you need to, you go into a coma pretty quickly. You go into shock. And so a lot of times that stuff helps them to find their own personal motivation. But either way, you're talking to them about the life they want to live. One of the things that becomes a big issue in teenagers is who has control over remembering to take the medication. Because if they've had it from early childhood, the parents are giving it to them. The parents are keeping track. And what that does is it means they can't go to a sleepover because mom can't give them their medicine. But if as a teenager, are they ready? Do they have the level of maturity to try some of the independence of managing their healthcare on their own? If they can, you absolutely want to move into that phase, but you want to pick something that's safe. Now, if they, have, for example, are cognitively impaired, so they really can't remember their medication independently, then you pick something else that they can have independence over. And you definitely don't let them skip the prom for meds. Figure it out. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
That was a great question. We actually have 3 more queued up. We are at the end of our time, but I'm just going to read it and see if you have a short answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Assuming it's important to know what stage a client is in with their denial acceptance for behavioral change,
yeah.
How could motivational interviewing techniques be used to help them through this process? And they say prior to goal setting. Maybe
yes.
You want to, okay.
Yeah, so actually, we didn't go into the whole stages of change thing. But there's some nice examples of different kinds of work you're going to be doing depending on the stage of change that someone's in. So for example, if they're in pre-contemplation, what you need to do is just provide information. If they're in contemplation phase, which means they're considering whether or not to make a change, then a lot of this classic weigh out the pros and cons stuff is really useful. So assessing their stage of change actually tells you which part of motivation you need to work on.
Is there a reference they could find that pairing for?
Yeah, I think if you're nice examples come out. Miller and Rolnick, who are the authors of this work around motivational interviewing, have a nice follow-up model that has to do with health behavior change and motivational interviewing. Because it was initially written for substance. So if you look at the Miller and Rolnick stuff on health behavior change, they'll talk about this connection.
Yes, and Camille's going to send out the certificate of completion for everyone. Maybe I'll get the link from you and she can put it in the email so everybody can get it. Another short question, but these are wonderful answers. How do you motivate someone who always contradicts you?
Okay. Do you guys know what yes, but means? It means no. So if someone says yes, but, that means no. So when someone is contradicting you more than one time, listen for two things. One is it because you've actively engaged them in a dialogue and you guys are on the same team trying to come up with the answers and they're like, no, not that, I want to do this? Or is it that you guys are actually like this instead of partnering like this? If someone contradicts you a lot, what that means is you need to take a breath and get on their team. Someone yes buts you and continues to contradict if they believe or feel that they are not being heard. And if they feel like you don't understand, then they're going to keep trying to make you understand until they get frustrated and disengage. So good news, they're trying.
Excellent. That was from Catherine. This one's from Tracy. I'm currently working with sensitive COFA population that has been affected a lot by the level of government support or the lack thereof.
Lack thereof, that's right.
This has been a great effect on the individual ability to trust health providers and those related to the government. How do you navigate this as you try to work on health literacy and health competency?
Yes, I agree 100% with that as a context. And I think one of the things is, depending on how much language facility that the two of you have together, so I don't assume that's their problem if we don't speak the same language, but if they're comfortable with the same language as me, then I do a lot of establishing the frame that says they've probably had a rough go, right? But that's about being a good guesser, to establish and assume that it hasn't always been easy and that there have been a lot of disappointments. I start with that assumption so they know I know where they're coming from and not assuming that anything that's hard for them is their fault. If we have that language barrier, then I need to do that connection first with whoever's the translator and then with the translator and that person so that we're on the same page and they can really feel that I'm sitting next to them. Same thing. Yeah. Great question.
The last one, and then I think you do have a slide with your contact information. So if anybody has more questions, we'll let them email you or we'll make the connection. This is from Angela. Hi, thank you for this. It was great. My question, do you have any suggestions for how to work with folks with a significant trauma history? Should non-psych providers ever bring up past or current psych history?
Okay.
I mean, trauma history.
Trauma history, yeah. Okay, so here's my thing about that. Hearing somebody's traumatic past is not easy. And it might be interesting, but unless you're doing it for the specific purpose of helping them to feel better. So for example, doing an intervention like systematic desensitization or prolonged exposure, if you're not doing it for that reason, don't unwrap it. So if you're not the provider who's going to be able to see it all the way through with them, don't unpack it and have them tell you the story. And tell them that you want them to find a safe place where they can do that. But that doesn't mean you can't help them with the rest. It just means you want to treat that stuff with care, because if you help them all unravel and then you don't have a way of helping them walk through it toward healing, then you haven't done them a favor. You've just given them one more time when they had to relive something awful. So, but that doesn't mean you don't help people with trauma. It means you help them decide, make a choice and feel like they have choice in who and how they share, and that you can help them with whatever part they choose. That's okay. Sometimes they want you to be the helper and you're not trained to do that. You can always listen and care and have empathy, but just know if in your context you are not allowed, you can't do that, you're like literally not allowed because you got 12 minutes and you got to make them move, then you empathize with what they've shared and you explain that's the situation and help them get where they really can tell and share. That's my best encouragement in 20 seconds or less.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. So people online were having trouble.
With the slides?
The link expired. Camille reloaded it. Go to the link. Do not click expire these. Do not click that. You want the PowerPoint. You hover over the title of each handout. Click on it and you will get the document. I just put it into the chat again for anyone seeking the PowerPoint. Anyone that's in I will email it to, I'll have Camille load them again when she sends out the certificates so you can get them. Thank you everybody for coming.
Thanks so much.
Let's give her a great thank you. Don't forget to fill out your evaluations. The certificates are outside for you.